Central dogma of molecular biology. This is the topic we have been discussing since last few weeks. The central dogma of molecular biology describes two-step process, transcription and translation, by which information from genes flows into protein. DNA transfers genetic information by transcription to RNA. In turn, RNA will translate that information to form a sequence of amino acids in protein, and this way the central dogma is completed. We have done the first part of central dogma of life, that is transcription. Now let us go for the next part, that is translation. By definition, the process by which the nucleotide sequence of mRNA is converted into the sequence of amino acid of the corresponding protein is called as translation. Synthesis of proteins by the ribosomes using mRNA as the template is translation. Here is the general picture of the how translation takes place. Three types of nucleotides, nucleic acids, they take part in translation. That is mRNA, tRNA, and ribosomal RNA. mRNA brings the genetic information from DNA by the process of transcription. This transcript of DNA, or so-called mRNA, then locates itself on ribosome, where ribosomal RNAs are working, and there it will translate itself into sequence of amino acids. The sequence of nucleotide in mRNA is translated into sequence of amino acids in protein. This is done with the help of other group of nucleic acid, that is tRNA. So tRNA, mRNA and ribosomal RNA, all they contribute for the cause of synthesis of protein, or the second part of central dogma of nucleic, central dogma of life, biological molecule. We will start with the protein biosynthesis, with getting ourselves acquainted with the language of genes or genetic code. Dictionary that identifies the correspondence between sequence of nucleotide bases and sequence of amino acid is called as genetic code. Usually presented in the messenger RNA language of adenine, guanine, cytosine, and uracil is genetic code, always written from the 5' end to the 3' end. Codons. Codons are the individual words in the genetic code dictionary. Each codon is composed of a nucleotide base, 3 nucleotide bases. By definition, codon is the sequence of 3 nucleotide bases on mRNA, which determines the type and the position of the amino acid that will enter in the structure of protein molecule. Here is a map of genetic code. This has got 16 boxes. Each boxes has got about 3 codons. Each codon is made up of 3 nucleotides. So if you look at the box number 1, that it every nucleotide has got U as the first nucleotide, then second nucleotide is also U, and in third place U, C, A, G are locating themselves. The first two nucleotides, they are for phenylalanine, and the second two nucleotides are for leucine. Like that, you will have codons for all the 20 amino acids. In the second row, we have leucine, protein, histidine, and arginine. In next row, we have isoleucine, arginine, serine, etc. In general, these codes, these genetic code, a triplet codon for a particular amino acid is having few characteristics in common. Those are universality, specificity, non-overlapping, and degeneracy. Let us take one by one. Universality of genetic code. Genetic code is universal. That is, in all species of universe, the codon coding for a particular amino acid remains same. Second characteristic is specificity. This is also called as unambiguity. For a given codon in the mRNA, only a single species of tRNA molecule possesses the proper anticodon. That is, each tRNA molecule can be charged with only one specific amino acid. So each codon specifies only one amino acid. Then the third characteristic is genetic code is non-overlapping. That is, the genetic code is continuous, non-overlapping. There is no punctuation between codons. The message is read up to the stop codon. The last characteristic is degeneracy. There are multiple codons coding for single amino acids. For example, GGA, GGU, GGG, GGC, glycine are codons for glycine. Methionine and tryptophan have a single codon. One codon represents only one amino acid, and one amino acid can have many codons. The other property to be added in the list is Abel hypothesis. The reduced stringency of between the third base of the codon and the complementary nucleotides in the anticodon in the tRNA is called Hobeling. Example are GGU, GGC, GGA, GGG are the codes for glycine. All can pair with CCI, that is, I stands for inosinic acid, anticodon of tRNA. Significance of Hubble is mutations are reduced. One more thing, if you look at that map of genetic code, we find out of the 64 codons, 3 codons they do not have any amino acid. Remaining 61 have got one or other amino acid. So these 3 codons which does not code for any amino acids, they are called as termination codons, stop or nonsense signals. Now this one side the sequence of nucleotide is there, other side sequence of amino acid is there. The linking point between those two, that amino acid and nucleic acid is a reaction catalyzed by an enzyme called as amino acyl tRNA synthetase that combines amino acid in the presence of ATP forms amino acyl AMP. This amino acyl AMP is converted into amino acyl tRNA by replacing the AMP by tRNA, and this tRNA loaded with amino acid is called as charged amino acids, and this is the linkage between these two strings. That is, amino acyl tRNA has got one side a nucleic acid, other side an amino acid. Now we will go for the actual proper protein biosynthesis. Let us see what are the things we need to start with protein biosynthesis in a cell. Here we have A. amino acid, B. transfer RNA, C. amino acyl tRNA synthesis, D. messenger RNA, E. functionally competent ribosomes, and protein factors ATP and GTP required as source of energy. These are the requirement of protein biosynthesis. Now we say that A is for amino acids. 20 types of amino acids are required, what we call as standard amino acids. Before this must be available in buffer. Then transfer RNA for specific for a particular amino acids. So minimum 20 types of transfer RNA are required. This transfer RNA has got two parts. One is amino acid attachment site, where a tRNA has a covalently attached amino acid. It is said to be charged. You can see in the figure that the CCA end of an amino acid is always having an amino acid of a tRNA has got an amino acid. Here it is the very first tRNA, so methionine is the amino acid. Then second end of amino acid, which is required for the protein biosynthesis, is anticodon N. Anticodon has got sequence of nucleotide complementary to the sequence of nucleotide of codon. So amino acid tRNA synthetase that converts amino acid into amino acid tRNA. This charging reaction have an error rate of less than 10 to 4, and so they are extremely accurate. The synthesis have a proofreading or editing activity that can remove mischarged amino acids from the tRNA molecule. So next is now messenger RNA, amino acids, tRNA, then messenger RNA. Messenger RNA is the transcript. By transcription of gene, that is part of a DNA molecule, is transcribed into RNA, and that RNA acts as a template. Next is functionally competent ribosome. What does it mean by functionally competent ribosome? Ribosome has got two types of subunits, a small subunit and a big subunit. The small subunit in prokaryote is of 30 S, and in eukaryote it is of 40 S. The big subunit is in prokaryote is of 50 S, and in eukaryote it is 60 S. So they are associated, joined together to form a competent ribosome. Then ribosomal RNA are present in these proteins. Ribosome consists of two parts, ribosomal RNA and ribosomal protein. That constitutes a ribosome. If you look at a mature active competent ribosome, we find that there are three sites on that: E site, P site, and A site found on the big subunit. The A site is meant for amino acid tRNA binding site, P site is meant for peptidyl tRNA binding site, and the E site is exit site. So large ribosomal subunit and small ribosomal subunit get associated in an organic way. So giving this three site, there is one more site which is seen there is mRNA binding site where mRNA can bind. In addition to the APE sites, there is an mRNA binding groove that holds on to the message being translated. Next is cellular location of ribosome. In eukaryotic cells, the ribosomes are either free in the cytosol or are in close association with the endoplasmic reticulum. The F is protein factors. There are factors, protein molecules, which regulate or which can't take part in protein biosynthesis. They are initiation factors, elongation factors, and termination factors. In initiation factor, we have EIF1, EIF2, EIF3, EIF4, EIF4 like that. In elongation factor, we have elongation factor 1 and elongation factor 2. And in termination factor, we have three types, that is RS1, RS2, and RS3. So this we will see how these are contributing to the protein biosynthesis phenomena. Then G is ATP and GTP, which are required for the protein, for the energy source for protein biosynthesis. Cleavage of 4 high energy bonds is required for the addition of one amino acid. Now we come to codon recognition by tRNA. How a specific tRNA, carrying a specific amino acid on its CCA end, it can recognize a specific codon for it. There are two possible mechanisms which makes it easy to recognize its own codon. One is the anti-parallel binding between codon and anticodon. Codon is present on the mRNA, anticodon is present on one of the arm of the tRNA. Their binding gives mechanism of recognition of the amino acid, the codon by tRNA. The other mechanism is Hobel hypothesis. Hobel allows a single tRNA to recognize more than one codon. So this was all about the components of tRNA, components of protein biosynthesis. Now we will take up translation in particular. Translation itself has got three stages: initiation, elongation, and termination. Initiation of protein synthesis begins by binding of mRNA to the ribosome. Requirement of initiation process are: it requires tRNA, it requires ribosomes, it requires mRNA, it requires amino acids, it requires GTP and ATP, at least it requires 10 eukaryotic initiation factors. Initiation can be divided into 4 stages. So we have divided protein biosynthesis into 3 stages: initiation, elongation, and termination. Now initiation is divided into 4 steps. That is ribosomal dissociation, first stage; formation of 43S pre-initiation complex, second stage; formation of the 48S is third stage, and fourth is formation of the 18S, the initiation complex. Here there is a diagrammatic representation of this, that first 80S is dissociated into 60S and 40S. 60S then goes and binds with 43 pre-initiation complex to form 80S ribosome. This 43S is formed from the 40S combines with initiation factor 1 and 3, then it combines with factor 4, then it forms 40S. Afterwards it is converted into 43S. After binding with the big subunit, it becomes 80S subunit. This is the initiation, start initiation. Then ribosomal dissociation of, now first part of the initiation, dissociation of the complete ribosome 80S into its 40 and 60S. This step is carried out by two initiation factors, EIF1, EIF3, which binds to the subunit, dissociating it from 80S and preventing its reassociation. Second stage is formation of the 43S pre-initiation factor complex. This 43S pre-initiation complex is formed by binding of a ternary complex consisting of methionine tRNA, GTP, and EIF2 to the 40S ribosome. This first step is the first step in this process involves the binding of GTP and EI factor 2. This binary complex then binds to methionine tRNA to form a ternary complex. The ternary complex then binds to the 40S ribosomal subunit to form 43S pre-initiation complex. This is clear here how this 43S pre-initiation complex is formed. That starts from 40S combines with IF1 and IF3, then that gets IF2 with methionine and tRNA forming 40S, and this 40S then combines with the big subunit to form 48S. Third part is formation of the 48S initiation complex. This complex is formed by binding of mRNA to the 43S pre-initiation complex. Then formation of 48S initiation complex. Next step, initiation factor 4 subunit, that is EIF4, interacts with mRNA cap. mRNA cap together with EIF4 facilitates the binding of mRNA to the 43S pre-initiation complex. ATP hydrolysis occurs during the mRNA binding. So diagrammatically this is shown that 43S will get converted into 48S, and that 40S will go for the formation of 80S. Third step in initiation is formation of the 48S initiation complex. Formation of the 48S initiation complex, recognition of initiation codon. Initiation occurs at the first AUG codon at 5' on translated region of mRNA. The scanning mechanism starts by binding of the 43S pre-initiation complex with mRNA near its 5' end. Then moves in the 3' direction until it meets to the first AUG codon, that is the initiation codon. ATP hydrolysis is essential for this scanning process. Diagrammatic representation, you can see how the 43S, for that 40S, it gets converted into 43S ribosomal subunit. Formation of ATS initiation complex. This complex is formed by binding of the 40 ATS initiation complex with 60S ribosomal subunit. So 60S ribosomal unit combines with 43S ribosome to give a ATS ribosomal subunit. The formation of the ATS initiation complex continues. This binding involves the hydrolysis of the GTP bound to EIF2 by EIF5 with release of initiation factors 1A, 2 and 3. These factors are then recycled. Second part of this is the complete ribosome ATS contains two sites for tRNA molecule. These are P sites, that is peptidyl site, which is occupied by methionine tRNA, and A site, which is free and ready to receive the subsequent amino acid tRNA. Formation of the ATS invitation complex. The initiation complex ATS. So this diagram is clearly shows how that ATS is formed. Then next step is elongation. Elongation of the polypeptide chain involves the addition of amino acid to the carboxyl end of the growing polypeptide chain. During elongation, the ribosomes move from the 5' end to the 3' end to the of the mRNA. Now, requirement of elongation. It includes ATS initiation complex. It requires amino acid tRNA. It requires GTP as the energy source. It requires eukaryotic elongation factors EF1 and EF2. The methionine tRNA is present in P site from the initiation state. The stage of elongation can be divided into three stages: binding of amino acid tRNA to the A site, peptide bond formation, and translocation. Binding of amino acid tRNA to the A site, entry of the new amino acid tRNA to the empty A site on the ribosome requires proper codon recognition. This depends upon the complementary basis of both codon and anticodon. Second is at first EEF1 forms a complex with GTP and they enter into the amino acid tRNA. This complex allows the amino acid tRNA to enter in the A site, which then releases of EEF1 and hydrolysis of GTP into GDP and phosphate. These factors are then recycled. The second part of the elongation is peptide bond formation. The carboxyl group, CO group of the amino acid tRNA in P site is transferred to the transferred to and bind with the amino NH group of the new amino acid tRNA in the A site. This reaction is catalyzed by peptidyl transferase enzyme present in the 60S subunit. Now, third part of elongation is translocation. After the peptide bond formation has been formed, it is completed, the ribosome moves 3 nucleotides towards the 3' end of mRNA. Second step, this process is known as translocation and is required translocase enzyme EEF2 and GTP. Third step, as a result of movement of the ribosome, the following events occur. Release of the uncharged tRNA from P site of ribosome, then transfer of the newly formed peptide tRNA from A site and to occupy P site, and A site becomes free. Thus, it can be occupied by another new amino acid tRNA according to the codon-anticodon reactions. Then the process will be repeated. Fourth stage is, for each new peptide bond form, 4 high energy phosphate bonds are cleaved. The charging of the tRNA molecule with the amino acid group requires the hydrolysis of an ATP and an ANP plus PPI is formed. This is equivalent to the hydrolysis of 2 ATP to 2 ADP plus 2PI. Second is the entry of the amino acid tRNA into the A site leads to the hydrolysis of 1 GTP to GTP plus PI. The translocation of the newly formed peptidyl tRNA in the A site into the P site by elongation factor 2 similarly leads to the hydrolysis of 1 GTP to 1 GTP plus PI. This is the third part of elongation. That is, first is location of that amino acid tRNA into A site, second is formation of peptide bond, and third is translocation. First, initiation methionine amino acid residue coded by AUG is removed at the N terminal and before synthesis of the polypeptide chain is completed, unless it is the required N terminal amino acids for the polypeptide. Elongation of translation. So that in elongation, the A site is occupied by a new amino acid tRNA, and that will form a peptide bond with the amino acid at P site. That dipeptide form will be found at the P site, and the tRNA at A site has got the third new amino acid will come, A3. Like that, this process will continue. Elongation steps are repeated number of times, and the polypeptide chain is completely synthesized. Then comes the next step, termination. Termination is the final step which occurs after multiple cycles of elongation and formation of protein molecule. Termination occurs when ribosome moves to one of the termination nonsense codons into A site. Those nonsense codons, you will remember, they are UUA, UAG and UGA. Releasing factors, that is RF1, RF2 and RF3, which are present very much in A site, can recognize all the three termination codons. Releasing factors together with GTP and peptidyl transferase promote the hydrolysis of the bond between peptide and RNA occupying the P site. This hydrolysis, this hydrolysis leads to release of both peptide and tRNA and dissociation of ATS ribosomes into its 40S and 60S subunits, which are then recycled. So in this figure, the last event of protein biosynthesis as termination translation given. When the A site is occupied by no codon, then a releasing factor will accommodate itself in the A site against the one of the terminating codon, that is maybe UAG, and binding of that will catalyze a reaction of hydrolysis of peptide bond between the tRNA at P site and the polypeptide. That will release the tRNA, that will release the polypeptide, and that will cause dissociation of the two subunits of ribosome, and they will get dissociated. So this way, this formation of synthesis of a polypeptide takes place with the help of these nucleic acids and protein factors. There is another phenomena called as post-translational processing. That is, after the native protein formed by protein biosynthesis, it is subjected to reversible and irreversible modifications. Some reversible modifications are disulfide bridge, glycosylation, phosphorylation, acylation, N-acylation, and ADP ribosylation. Irreversible modifications are proteolysis, ubiquitination, lysine, proline, hydroxylation, carboxylation, and methylation. Gamma carboxylation of glutamic acid is also part of post-translational modification. Proteolytic cleavage of proinsulin to insulin is also a PTM. Lysine hydroxylation of collagen vitamin C is also a PTM. And glycosylation of proteins co-translation or post-translation modification. After the post-translation modification, protein is then subjected to foldings. A newly synthesized protein may assume different three-dimensional structures. These changes of protein into a three-dimensional molecule are helped by chaperones, which produce the proper and functional spatial arrangements. Abnormal folding of the protein may lead to prion disease. Example, heat shocking protein or stress proteins are examples of chaperones. Apart from this, we find that covalent modification of the regulatory enzymes, that also comes under post-translational modification of major metabolic pathway. Here are some examples: that PDH complex, which is required in the link reaction of TCA cycle and PDH complex, is inactive when it is dephosphorylated, and after it is inactive in the phosphorylated form, and after dephosphorylation it becomes active. Like that, glycogenesis is inactive in dephosphorylated form, becomes active after phosphorylation. Glycogenolysis is active in its dephosphorylated form and becomes inactive after dephosphorylation. Fatty acid synthesis is inactive in its phosphorylated form and becomes active after phosphorylation. Like that, a lipolysis is active in its phosphorylated form and becomes inactive after phosphorylation. So this post translation modification of the protein also take part in regulation of metabolic pathway. So this way we have completed the second part of our lecture. First was the transcription, second was translation. So I thank you for the attentive listening. Thank you.